When my daughter-in-law looked at me across the dinner table and told me it was time for me to leave, I did not scream. I did not cry. I did not even drop my fork. I smiled. And that smile surprised even me, because inside, my heart felt like a glass that had just cracked from top to bottom. You know that sound? That tiny, sharp sound a glass makes before it breaks into 1,000 pieces? That was the sound my soul made that night. But I kept smiling, because I am a mother. And a grandmother. And I have spent 67 years learning that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is be quiet. Not because you are weak, but because you are too tired to fight anymore. My name is Eleanor, but my grandchildren call me Ellie. You can call me Ellie too. Pull up a chair. Let me pour you a cup of tea. It's a little cold now, but the story is still warm. It still burns just a little. I want to tell you about a girl named Priya. She was my daughter-in-law. And she was the most confusing kind of heartbreak I have ever known. Because she never yelled at me. She never called me a name. She never threw my things out onto the lawn. No. She did something much more painful. She smiled at me in public, but broke me behind closed doors. Let me take you back. Back to a time when my heart was full of hope. Back to the beginning. My son, Michael. Oh, my Michael. He was a quiet boy. Always had his nose in a book. When he was little, the other boys would play baseball, but Michael would sit on the porch with me and ask me about the clouds. Why are they fluffy, Mama? Where do they go at night? He was gentle. Too gentle for this loud world, I sometimes thought. When he grew up, he became an engineer. A good one. Steady job. Steady hands. But his heart was always looking for someone to hold. And then, he found Priya. I remember the first time he told me about her. He called me on a Tuesday evening. It was raining outside my window. He said, Mama, I think I met the one. My heart did a little flip. A mother always wants that for her child. But a mother also feels a tiny pinch of fear. Who is this person? Will she love my son the way I love him? Will she let me stay close? He brought her to meet me 3 weeks later. I made pot roast. I cleaned the house until the floors shined. I even put on my good earrings, the pearl ones your father gave me before he passed. The doorbell rang. I opened it, and there she was. Priya. She was beautiful. Dark hair, dark eyes, and a smile that could light up a dark room. She stepped inside and hugged me. Actually hugged me. Not a side hug. A real one. Mrs. Eleanor, she said. Michael talks about you all the time. I feel like I already know you. I was melting. I was ready to love her. I was ready to open my home and my heart. For the first year, everything was wonderful. They came for Sunday dinners. She helped me with the dishes. She laughed at my old stories, even the ones she had heard 3 times before. She called me Mom. Not Michael's mom. Just Mom. I thought, God has blessed me. I did not just gain a daughter-in-law. I gained a daughter. The wedding was small. In my backyard. Under the oak tree where Michael used to play. Priya wore a white dress, simple and elegant. And when she walked down the aisle, she looked at me and winked. She winked at me. I cried, of course. I cry at everything. After the wedding, they bought a little house. 20 minutes from mine. It was perfect. Close enough for me to help. Far enough for them to have their privacy. Then the baby came. Little Maya. When I held that baby for the first time, I felt my husband's spirit in the room. I felt my own mother's hands on my shoulders. This was life. This was the circle. I offered to help. Priya, I said, let me stay with you for a few weeks. Just to help with the cooking, the cleaning. So you can rest. She smiled. That beautiful, bright smile. Oh, Mom. That would be amazing. So, I packed my bag. I left my little house, my garden, my quiet mornings, and I moved into their guest room. I did not know it then, but that was the beginning of the END. First, it was fine. Better than fine. I woke up early, made breakfast. I held Maya while Priya took long showers. I swept the floors. I folded the laundry. I felt useful. I felt needed. But slowly, very slowly, like the tide going out, things began to change. It started with small things. Very small. The kind of small things you ignore because you don't want to be difficult. One morning I was making eggs. Scrambled, the way Michael likes them. Priya came into the kitchen. She looked at the pan. Then she looked at me. "Oh," she said. "You're using butter." "Yes," I said. "Just a little. For taste." She picked up the butter knife and put it in the sink. Then she took out a spray bottle of oil.
"We use this now," she said.
"It's healthier." Her voice was not angry. It was just flat. Like she was teaching a child. I said, "Okay, dear. I'll remember next time." But there was no thank you for making breakfast. There was no smile. She just walked away. That was the first tiny crack. A few days later, I was rocking Maya in the living room, singing that old lullaby my grandmother used to sing. You know the one. "Hush, little baby. Don't say a word." Priya walked in. She stood there for a moment, watching me. Then she said, "We don't really do lullabies. We do white noise. It's better for brain development." I stopped singing. My voice just died in my throat. "Oh," I said. "I didn't know." She picked up Maya from my arms. Not roughly, just efficiently, like she was taking a book off a shelf. "It's okay," she said. "You didn't know." Those 4 words, "you didn't know," they started to become a pattern. If I used the wrong soap for the baby's clothes, you didn't know. If I gave Maya a bath that was too warm, you didn't know. If I told a story about Michael as a child that Priya had here before, you didn't know. Every day a little cut, a little paper cut on my heart. And paper cuts don't bleed much, but they sting. Oh, how they sting. But here is the confusing part. The part that still makes my head spin. On Sundays, we went to church. And in the parking lot, Priya would hold my arm. She would introduce me to her friends. "This is my mother-in-law, Eleanor. She is such a blessing. She helps us so much." Her friends would smile at me. "You're so lucky," they would say to Priya. "Wish my mother-in-law was like that." And Priya would squeeze my hand. She would look at me with those dark eyes, full of warmth. "I know," she would say. "She's the best." Then we would drive home. 20 minutes in the car. And by the time we walked through the front door, the warmth was gone. The door would close. And the air would change. It was like living with 2 different women. The public Priya, who loved me, and the private Priya, who tolerated me. I tried to talk to Michael about it. One night, after Maya was asleep, I found him in the garage. He was fixing a shelf. "Michael," I said, "does Priya seem different to you? At home, I mean?" He didn't look up from his screws. "Different how, Mama?" I hesitated. I didn't want to sound like a victim. I didn't want to be that mother-in-law, the one who complains. "She just corrects me a lot," I said, "about small things." Michael sighed. He put down his screwdriver. "Mama, you know how she is. She's a perfectionist. She just wants things done a certain way for the baby. Don't take it personally. Don't take it personally." Those words are like a knife to a mother's heart. Because everything is personal. Love is personal. Home is personal. But I nodded. I smiled. I said, "You're right, baby. I'm just being sensitive." And I went back inside. I washed the dishes. I wiped the counters. And I went in my room that night. I heard them talking. Their bedroom was next to mine. The walls were thin. I did not mean to listen. But I heard Priya's voice. Low. Serious. "Michael, your mother rearranged the spice cabinet. I spent an hour organizing that." Michael's voice was tired. "I'll talk to her." "No," Priya said. "Don't talk to her. Just let's think about a timeline. For her to go home." A timeline? Like I was a project. Like I was a renovation that needed an end date. I pulled the blanket over my head. And I did not cry. Because I was afraid that if I started crying, I would never stop. The weeks turned into 2 months. 2 months of walking on eggshells. 2 months of holding my tongue. 2 months of loving my granddaughter in secret glances. Because every time I held her too long, Priya would find a reason to take her. I stopped singing lullabies. I stopped using butter. I stopped telling stories at the dinner table. I became small, quiet, invisible. And then came the night that changed everything. It was a Friday. Michael was working late. Priya had gone to visit her sister. It was just me and Maya. Finally. Alone. I sat on the floor with her. She was 6 months old. She had started to roll over and grab at things. She had Michael's eyes. My Michael's eyes. I picked up a soft rattle. I shook it gently. Boo, I said. Peek-boo. Maya laughed. That gummy, toothless, perfect baby laugh. It filled the whole house. It filled my empty heart. I laughed too. I picked her up and held her against my chest. I rocked her. And before I knew it, I was singing. Just a whisper. Just to her. Hush, little baby, don't say a word. Mama's gonna buy you a mockingbird. I heard the front door open. My back went straight. My song stopped. My heart started pounding like a drum. Priya walked into the living room. She was early. She was supposed to be gone for 2 more hours. She looked at me. She looked at Maya in my arms. And then she looked at the rattle on the floor. Her face did not change. It stayed smooth, polite. But her eyes went cold, Eleanor. Live like this anymore. There was a long silence. Then Michael spoke. His voice was quiet, broken. What do you want me to do? I want her to leave, Priya said. By the end of the month. Or I will take Maya and go to my mother's house. And I won't come back. I leaned against the kitchen counter. The world went blurry. Not from tears. From shock. She was giving him an ultimatum. Her or me. And in that moment I knew. I knew my son. He loved me. But he loved her more. He loved his daughter more. And he would choose them. He had to choose them. I was the extra piece. The piece that didn't fit anymore. I walked to the guest room. I closed the door softly. I sat on the edge of the bed. And I looked at the suitcase in the corner. The one I had brought 2 months ago, thinking I would only stay for a few weeks. I unzipped it. And I began to pack. I did not wait for the dinner table. I did not wait for the conversation. I decided that if I was going to be pushed out, I would walk out on my own 2 feet, with my head held high. But my heart was shattered the next morning. I woke up before the sun. I made one last breakfast. Not for them. For me. I made scrambled eggs. With butter. I made toast. I brewed a pot of strong coffee. I ate alone at the kitchen table. And I watched the sun rise over their backyard. Over the little swing set Michael had just started to build for Maya. I left my key on the counter. I wrote a note. Michael, I love you. I am so proud of the father you have become. I am going home now. Not because I am angry, but because you need your family, and I need my peace. Take care of my girl. Tell Maya that Grandma Ellie loves her. More than the moon and the stars. Be happy. That is all I have ever wanted for you.
Mama.
I did not write a note to Priya. I had nothing left to say to her. I called a taxi. An old habit. I don't use those phone apps. The taxi came at 7:15 a.m. The driver, a nice man named Carlos, put my suitcase in the trunk. As I opened the car door, I heard a sound from the house. The front door opened. It was Priya. She was holding Maya. She was wearing a robe. Her hair was messy. She looked different.
Softer.
For just a second, she walked down the steps. She stood on the sidewalk. She looked at me, and then she smiled. Not the cold smile. Not the polite smile. A small, almost sad smile. Eleanor, she said, you didn't have to leave like this. I looked at her, at this young woman who had once hugged me like a daughter, who had once called me mom, who had once winked at me at her wedding. Yes, I did, I said.
My voice was calm.
I surprised myself. She shifted Maya on her hip. Where will you go?
Home, I said.
I still have a home. She nodded. She opened her mouth like she wanted to say something else. An apology. An explanation.
A goodbye.
But nothing came out. The words got stuck somewhere between her heart and her lips. So I did something I did not expect. I walked to her. I reached out. And I touched Maya's tiny hand. Be good for your mama, little one, I whispered. And when you're old enough, come find me. I'll teach you the lullaby. Then I looked at Priya. I looked her right in the eyes. I forgive you, I said. Her eyes widened. Forgive me for what? For not knowing how to love an old woman, I said. It's not your fault. Nobody taught you. Just like nobody taught me how to let go. I got into the taxi. Carlos drove away. I did not look back, because I knew if I looked back, I would see Maya's little hand waving, and I would lose my courage. The drive to my house was 20 minutes. I watched the trees pass by. I watched the houses change from new and big to old and small. My house was small, but it was mine. When Carlos stopped in my driveway, I paid him. I gave him a big tip. He helped me with my suitcase. Take care, ma'am, he said. You too, Carlos, I said. I walked up the steps. The key was still under the flower pot. I unlocked the door, and I walked into the silence. The house smelled like dust and old memories. The clock on the wall had stopped. The plants on the windowsill were dead. I sat down on my old sofa, the one my husband and I bought 40 years ago, and for the first time in 2 months, I cried. I cried for Michael, for the little boy who used to hold my hand crossing the street. I cried for Maya, for all the birthdays I might miss. I cried for Priya,
For the daughter I thought I had gained.
and I cried for myself, for the grandmother who became a ghost in her own son's house. I cried until there were no tears left, until my chest hurt, until the sun went down, and then I stopped. I wiped my face. I stood up. I went to the kitchen. I turned on the light. I filled a kettle with water. I put it on the stove. I made myself a cup of tea, just the way I like it,
Strong.
with a little honey, and I sat at my own kitchen table, in my own house, and I realized something. I was not broken. I was just bent, like an old tree in a storm. Bent, but not broken. Still standing. Still alive. That was 3 years ago. A lot has changed. Michael calls me every Sunday. We talk for an hour. He tells me about Maya. She is 3 now. She talks in full sentences. She loves dinosaurs and peanut butter sandwiches. He does not talk about Priya, and I do not ask. Sometimes, Priya sends me a text. On my birthday on Mother's Day. Just a short one. Happy birthday, Eleanor. No heart emoji. No love. Just the words. I always write back. Thank you, dear. Give Maya a kiss for me. It is not the relationship I dreamed of, but it is a relationship, and sometimes that is enough. I see Maya twice a year. Once in the summer, when Michael brings her to my house for a weekend, and once around. The last time she came, she climbed into my lap. She touched my gray hair. Grandma Ellie, she said, your hair looks like clouds. I laughed. Thank you, sweetheart.
Sing me the song, she said.
The one about the bird.
So I sang.
I sang the lullaby, and she fell asleep in my arms, just like her father used to do. For that 1 hour, I was whole again. Here is what I have learned, what I want you to take with you. Love is not always loud. Sometimes it is quiet. Sometimes it is letting go. Sometimes it is forgiving someone who has not even said they are sorry. I do not hate Priya. I cannot hate her. She gave me my granddaughter. She makes my son happy. Or at least, she makes him feel less alone. And I have learned that I am enough. I do not need to be in that house every day to be a grandmother. I do not need to cook their meals to be a mother. I am still their family, even from far away. To any daughter-in-law listening to this, please be kind to the old woman. She is not trying to take your place. She is just trying to find her place. She is afraid of being forgotten, afraid of being useless. To any mother-in-law listening, let go. Before you are pushed, walk away with your dignity. Your peace is worth more than being right. And to anyone who feels invisible, you are not. You are the lullaby. You are the butter. You are the old, strong tree that has weathered 1,000 storms. You are still here. And that is a miracle. I am Eleanor. I am 67 years old. I live alone in a small house with a dead garden and a clock that still doesn't work. But my heart is finally learning how to beat again. Thank you for listening to my story. Now, go call someone you love before the silence becomes too loud.